Hey, welcome back, everybody.
The last Wednesday in September.
Before the opener of bow season here in Michigan.
You got that right.
My, oh my, has the weather changed or what?
It has definitely changed for the cooler for now.
You know, and before we really get going tonight, I do want to just give a quick shout out to everybody down in Florida right now who is basically going through hell with this hurricane. So
Did it end up getting to be a Category 5?
it just missed going Cat 5 before it hit land. Yeah, it was like 150 mile an hour winds when it hit.
When I read it this morning, it was 2 miles an hour shy.
Yeah, it's bad down there. I mean, it is really bad. That storm is ginormous, to put it simply. So hopefully everybody comes out of that thing safe and sound. Hopefully nobody loses their life in that storm, but it is nasty. So just think about those people down there tonight while we're actually up here in Michigan, you know, high and dry and enjoying 50-degree weather, getting ready to think about going hunting. So,
alrighty, folks, this is going to be one of those nights, isn't it?
What's the matter over there, buddy? You having issues?
Sure.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and kick this thing off.
You do that.
All right, here we go. Stand by in 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal, everybody. I'm host Mike Adams, sitting in the cabin tonight with Dan DeFaw, who is over there banging away on his phone trying to break it.
You're about to see a computer go through the.
Having issues tonight?
It's just I have no idea.
Okay. Well,
no clue at this point.
If you need some help over there, I can help you out. You know,
right.
You can use my phone here. How about that? Adam Wynn's in the cabin. Miss Tammy Delka's here. Chad Fritz, and who else? Anybody else? There's other people piling in, and I just can't
Denny
see
Steiner's there.
Denny Steiner. Hey, what's up, Denny? And a big shout out to Denny's dad, 96th birthday.
96.
That's right. Yes,
that
sir.
Is awesome.
So, you let me know when you're ready to go there, because it looks like you're still having issues. You all right?
I have.
What's the matter?
Oh.
Are you all right?
Hold on, I'll tell you if I'm all right in a second.
I
tell you,
folks,
no, it's.
I can't help him.
I think it's literally because how cold it is.
I doubt that. Your computer's frozen?
No, it's. Oh! Holy smokes. We're here.
All right.
Let's do it. All right. So we got Tammy in this house. We got Adam in the house. We got Chad.
Let's take care of the people who take care of us.
Let's do that. You know what, folks? Nothing better. Like we said, 'twas the Wednesday before opener here in Michigan, and if you haven't gotten your scent or sense, cover sense or anything, why don't you go over to Buck Baits, check them out. If you want 20% off your order, go to buckbaits.com, use promo code UNJ20, get 20% off. If you haven't done it already and needed some easy cuts to cut through your way to your spot, because there are people like that, if you want 15% off, use UNJ15OFF at easycutproducts.com, gets you 15% off your order. Packer Max, never too late to order Packer Max, because before you know it, we're going to be starting to talk spring anyways. So, UNJ25 gets you $25 off your order over at Packer Max. Don't forget, it's never a bad time to go check out the Island Armory for maybe some gun, some bullets, or anything. UNJ10 at theislandarmory.com gets you 10% off over there. I know we're in September. If you're thinking of a goose call, or maybe you're thinking of a deer call, or you're thinking coyote call, go to JPO Game Calls. Use UNJ10. You'll get 10% off your order. Seasons are in full swing, and I have noticed Miller Deer Tracking has just been about all over the place, to Kentucky and back.
That's right.
If you use the code UNJ20, he'll give you 10% off your tracking needs. But there's still not ice on the water yet.
Not yet.
So you can still go over to Southern Indiana Bait Co. Check them out, see what kind of fishing lures they have, bodies that they have. UNJ10 gets you 10% off your order at checkout. And it would not be the end of the promos without using Deer Camp. And we're drinking the UNJ blend today. And if you go to deercampcoffee.com, use the promo code UNJ10, you get 10% off your order up over there. And if you go up into Newberry, Michigan, I tell you what, folks.
Hey, there's a car on the road.
There's a big truck in front of the camera today, and it's 45 degrees and sunny. There's not a cloud in the sky up there.
That's good hunting weather right there.
Right? Go to Cedars. They got frost warnings tonight.
Nice.
Go to Cedars, get a pizza, get some coffee, and enjoy Newberry and M123 FM serving Eastern UP of Michigan.
There you go. So,
that is a very good question. So,
we got that all out of the way.
We got that all out of the way, and it just leaves you wondering, have you ever wanted to do something on your own? Kind of a...
Yeah. A podcast tonight. Oh, man.
You want to do it on your own? I can leave.
You just left yourself wide open for that one.
Lord, here we go. But anyways, you know, we hear about these people wanting to do it yourselves. We talked to Brad Wright, who did it himself on Isle Royale, went camping, hiking.
Yep.
But if you ever wanted to go hunting, and maybe you thought about going up to Alaska and you wanted to know how to do it, I think we got the right person on tonight to ask about and give us his experience of doing that.
I think so. We got Dean Smith on. Hey, Dean, what's going on?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing good. All the way from southeastern Michigan, hanging out down there near Lake Erie. What is going on?
Just enjoying the weather. Just waiting for opening day to get rolling.
Yeah, you no doubt about that. It is upon us. Are you ready to hit the tree stand this weekend?
I don't know if I'll sit this weekend or not. It looks like I'm getting drafted to come in work Sunday. So we got some outages going on at work. So I think I'm going to be on 7 days, 12 hours for a couple weeks. But
oh, no.
it's okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
I don't do... Yeah, you make the money. I don't do a lot of sitting till the end of October anyhow.
That's right. That's about the time it starts to get good. So I'm planning on being up north this weekend, but not in a tree stand. I'm going to be on the kayak on Lake Huron.
I'm going to be in a tree stand. I'm going to the UP.
There you go. So, Dean, Alaska.
Yes, sir.
Wow. I mean,
not just once, not just twice,
but 3 times.
But 3 times. And you did it all DIY style.
That's correct.
How does one go about even? I mean, that's on everybody's bucket list.
First of all, before we get how he did it, how about we find out a little bit about Dean and his background?
He's a hunter, of course.
But did he start from a young age? Did he pick it up last week? What have you done, Dean? You've been hunting lifelong in Michigan?
Yeah, pretty much. I've been a hunter. Started going out with my dad and my grandfather when I was age 12. Always fascinated with the outdoor life and field and stream articles and stuff. I was a voracious reader as a young guy, and always reading about these great adventures and bear attacks and elk hunting and the Jack O'Connor stories, up in the mountains chasing sheep. I mean, they're just fantastic stories. And yeah, I drank it up as a kid, but I've been a lifelong deer hunter in the state. I've been out of state a little bit, and I started getting the idea, I want to go to Alaska while I'm young enough and strong enough, and
right.
Figure out a way to make it affordable because, it's kind of intimidating. It's not like just running down to Ohio for a weekend. You're flying a quarter of the way around the world in one direction in a completely alien environment. So yeah, there was a lot of thought process that went into it, and a lot of help from a lot of good people trying to make it happen, and made it happen times.
Now your first hunt was in 2018, correct?
Yeah.
So how long before that did you start the thought process and planning of, okay guys, this is what I'm going to do, and how long pre-work did you have to do?
About 2 years ahead. I decided I've always wanted to go and chase caribou. Caribou's an incredible animal if you like antlers. They've got crazy big antlers, and they've got every configuration of antler is unique to almost every animal.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that, hey, I want to do it. It bothered me that, the Quebec Labrador herd in Canada got shut down. And I started thinking, well, I always thought I'd go there, and now you can't because they shut that herd down. So I started looking at Alaska and started looking at prices and thought, man, that's pretty cost prohibitive. And I started looking at the DIY end of things and started thinking about it and reached out to some friends that were pretty good hunters and were well traveled. And I put some feelers out and threw it out there, a group of friends. Who's interested? Who wants to go? And let's rip the Band-Aid off and just go for it.
Yes, hey, that's just one of the things, like you said. Man, that Quebec herd has been shut down for a while now, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Yep.
Yeah, that was my dream when I got relatives in Quebec.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
No
no can do.
So you started getting your friends together and forming a group. When everybody got in and said, okay, yes, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
From that point to the time y'all bought tags to go and plane tickets and paid airfare, how much planning time did it really take to get everything together?
The initial thoughts are about 2 years, put the feelers out. I tapped maybe 20 guys to see who wanted to go.
Okay.
And, figured everyone wants to go, and then when it comes time to rubber meet the road, you find out who's really in and who's not.
Sure.
And it got down to 8. I had contacted a big game transporter, air taxi service, in Northwest Alaska, and started asking around and chased down a couple different air taxi services and finally settled in on a particular transporter that met our needs and I felt was a good fit for us and for the group our size, because 8's kind of a very large camp.
Okay. So when you get to that point and you're like, okay, we got 8 guys, we're going to go, and we got to figure out how we're going to get into the interior, and you're choosing that air taxi service, talk about a couple of things that's vitally important that you need to consider when choosing one. I mean, what are the questions you need to be asking?
First off, you need to do your homework. You need to check on the reputation. You need to see, if there's any major complaints with the Alaskan business bureaus, because there's some operators up there that don't have good reputations and they'll take your money. Okay. And, you're kind of really relying on good word of mouth, good references, and what the state agencies and the business sector are saying about particular operators, or if there's flags on their licenses. They've got to be licensed. Because it's a large investment of time, and it's a significant investment of money, comparatively speaking, to other things that you might do.
Well, that's the thing, right? You're spending some hard-earned money, as we talked about. You're going to be working 7 days a week here. And there's 8 of you. So there's a pretty good chunk of change you're going to be investing with this person. You kind of want to have an enjoyable time and not, at the end of the day, be swearing at the guy or left stranded somewhere, right?
Yeah, or going down.
or that too, right? Checking into a reputable source, deciding what you can use and not use to hunt. What about licenses and that? As you go down, does it take time to get the license? Is it over the counter? How does that kind of work out a little bit?
Well, since we're talking about caribou, the first thing you need to decide on is what area, because there's numerous caribou herds in the state of Alaska. So you've really got to figure out, all right, which area of the state or which herd you want to hunt, and then look and see what availability is. There's a good deal of over-the-counter caribou hunting to be had in Alaska, and caribou is a species in Alaska that does not require a guide. Okay. So there's a difference. When people talk about what outfitter to use, it didn't use an outfitter. We just used a transport service.
Okay.
There's a big difference in Alaska between the two, and even to boil it down further, between a big game transporter and an air taxi service. And they've got different rules and different idiosyncrasies within the different categories of of business. So we picked Northwest Alaska. We've got in 2018 they had a very large herd. I believe right around 500,000 animals, and big tracts of federal land and large units, and it looked like it was very doable. And the transporter we had settled with was Brooks Range Aviation. They've been in business for, I believe, like at the time, like 35 years, and they're rolling up on 40 years now.
Okay.
And they had a very good reputation, and they had bigger planes, which would accommodate a party size our size and a more comfortable camp. Because a lot of times, depending on what you want to do, you really have to think about how you're going to do it and the type of planes that they use to transport you into the field, because there's weight restrictions.
Right.
So, like on a Beaver, you could go to the north side of the Brooks Range, and it was about an hour and 20-minute flight from a little town called Bettles. And the town is already 35 miles north of the Arctic Circle. And a Beaver, you can stick 3 guys in there, and maybe, say, average weight, 200-pound guy. You're talking to get that far north safely, they're going to restrict you to about 900 to 1,000 pounds, people and gear. So, you know, it can afford you a little bit more comfortable camp, give you some creature comforts that you couldn't if you were flying out on Cessnas or Super Cubs. There's an operator out of Tote, different herd, 40-mile herd area, and you're restricted to, I believe, personal body weight and 40 pounds. And that's your camp, your food, your gun, everything.
Okay.
That's it. So it really takes some planning and some thought to gear choice and equipment, depending on which way you want to go. So anyways, back to Brooks Range. So we decided to go that route, and it was just an amazing trip. That was my first real big jump off, and we had some guys in camp that were excellent hunters, excellent outdoorsmen, very well traveled, and it was an incredible learning experience that gave me the confidence that I needed to move forward and do more, because I want to do as much as I can while I'm young enough, strong enough, and, you know, financially able to before, you know, I retire and you're on fixed income, and it makes that kind of spending, you know, for some of us, you know, maybe not doable.
Right, exactly. And I tell you what, we're coming up to our first break. How about when we come back from that break, we get into that first hunt. We got some pictures of that first hunt, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I got a specific question I want to ask leading into that, so we're going to step outside. We'll take our first break. We'll be right back after this.
All right. Amaya's on the show. Hey, Amaya, how are you? Tom Gensel says bucket list. Mark Coleman. Huge investment of time. Oh, that's a question I'll save towards the end. Obviously, you're going to see the scenery in some of these pictures, Mark, so stay tuned to that. All those questions should be answered in the next 3 segments.
All right. Here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1. All right. So we talked about getting the guys together, getting a plan together, figuring out,
Doing your homework.
and all that. Had out of your group, were any of the guys that went with you on this first trip, did they have any experience hunting in Alaska and doing this fly-in stuff?
I believe one of the fellows had previous Alaskan experience, but probably, I want to say, 4 of them had backcountry experience, and 4 of us were complete novices.
Okay,
it was like our first backcountry kind of deal.
So there's some experience of saying, okay, we need this gear, you need this type of tent, you need this kind of sleeping bag for these types of conditions, and then, you know, and you said that you chose Northwest to go for a herd up there. Was that based on just homework, or was that based on the guy who maybe went up there before you, or a recommendation from somebody when y'all decide to go to that particular area? What drew you to that spot? What was the reasoning behind that?
The reasoning was that it was an extremely remote area. It's probably, I think Steve Ranella said it best. It's arguably the most remote place in North America.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had it in my head that, hey, that sounds great to me. If I'm going to do a wilderness hunt, I want the whole enchilada, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had over-the-counter tags. We had a reputable, affordable, big game transporter available to accommodate a group our size and our gear, which, a lot of it we mailed up ahead of time instead of flying with it. So it's like one of the things you can do to cut down on some of your fly weights and some of your handling with your stuff.
How far ahead did you do that?
Well, everything's in Arctic time, so the recommendation out of most your taxis or transporters in Alaska are telling you to mail if you're going to do ground, to mail your stuff at least 6 weeks ahead of time, so it doesn't get snagged up or lost. Or things are different in Alaska. There's not the same sense of urgency to getting things done as those of us who live in the lower 48. It's just a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the state's enormous. It's 5 times the size of Texas, something crazy.
Right.
And there's only 750,000 people that live there.
Right.
That's it. So, the culture is a little different too. There was a lot of internet searching, talking to people. Alaska Outdoors Super Site was still functional, viable at that time, and bouncing back and forth between there and Rock Slide. I tend to be very detail oriented, and I'm a planner. So kind of earned me a nickname that the guys from the Kodiak trip tagged me with, and it's kind of stuck to this day. They call me Recon. So I'm like the guy that goes and figures it all out, and gets into the nuts and bolts of it, and makes everyone crazy. But somebody's got to do it. First trip, I took way too much crap. I got teased like crazy, and it's kind of funny now, but at the time it was kind of like aggravating. Half the stuff I took, I didn't need, so it was part of that learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right. Like you said, you've done it 3 times. I imagine back the first time you did it to the third time you did it was almost like 180 degrees of what your thought process was, and the easier it got, right?
Yeah. The last trip, some of the guys that went this time had gone to Kodiak with us, and they're giving me some hell, saying, "How the heck you get all this stuff in one tote?" Because tell them, don't send 2 totes, just send 1 tote up to Bettles, and you don't need 2 totes to make it work. And it's expensive. It's like 190. It cost me $190 to send a 60-pound tote one way.
And then it's got to come back with you.
That's right. That's right. And if you shoot a caribou, you've got more weight that you're flying home with too.
Plus, you got to worry about it keeping it frozen on the way home.
All right. So first trip, you got this Santa Claus sack full of stuff. Half of it you're going to use, half of it you're not. What was one thing you took that you thought you were going to use that you didn't use?
Probably excess clothing.
Okay.
I took too much clothes. I took, I basically lived in a single pair of hunting pants like nearly all week. I had way too many clothes. Food security, you don't think about it like day to day, but put yourself in a situation like that where you're 160 miles into the Arctic Circle. When you get dropped off, you're on your own. You self-rescue, you hold on if you have a problem, you figure it out. So we take it for granted that, we've got food in our backpack, and if we want more, we'll get more from the cupboard when we come in from hunting in the evening, or when we get back to camp, or somebody runs to town and grabs something. There was none of that there. So there was some anxiety for some of us, myself included. I took way too much food. And again, that's more weight, that's more stuff you gotta juggle around. And pretty much, I think that was a common theme in the four of us that had not done any sort of a backcountry hunt previously. My stepdaughter Kelly, my brother Adam, my good friend Bud. We all it was exciting and nervous, and it's a little scary. I mean, it's a ginormous step. Mm-hmm. And when that plane leaves and that sound fades out,
that's it.
You're
right?
on your own. There's a mountain range, and if the weather prevents it, they can't come get you, even if you fall down or break your leg. You have to be able to manage.
Well, speaking of that, breaking a leg, did any of you in any of the three trips get sick, close to an emergency situation? Anything like that happen to you?
No. We had a little bit of a bear scare the first day of hunting, the first trip. It turned out to be a nothing, but at the time it was kind of a rear end guillotine moment, if you kind of catch my drift. One of the guys caping an animal, got a cut. It was a good one. We had to clean that up, wrap it up real good, and check it every day, make sure it didn't get septic. This last trip, first caribou shot, my buddy Chad, he poked his finger pretty good, had a pretty good cut, and things that you take for granted here, like clean water, sterile environment, access to medical supplies, you have to have it with you. You have to have it with you, and you have to be diligent about a cut on a finger that could get infected in 3 days, and next thing you know, you're starting to get sick, and you need to get out. Well, that's a mess, because what if they can't come get you? And they can't come get you because of weather. Mm-hmm. And they can't come get you for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. So it's, a lot of people have romantic ideas about, this is a survival situation. Well, mm-hmm. It is and it isn't. In the terms to be thought of, it's not like the zombies are coming to get you. But, you have to really think about what you're doing before you do stuff, and be careful, because you don't want to go down that path where a goof, because you weren't being conscious or cognizant of what you're doing, starts to snowball and turns into, instead of a trip of a lifetime, turns into a hellish nightmare that
you're trying to survive.
Right.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, communicating, getting in, getting out, calling for help, did you have a special radio, something that you used? Tin cup and aluminum foil hat? What?
Yeah, Garmin makes inReaches, and those are pretty good satellite communicators. And we took satellite phones both times. In Alaska, the only satellite service that works reliably is the Iridium satellite systems. You're that far north, and something to do with satellites and their travel orbits. Mm-hmm. So, you could call, but it gets expensive. I think it's like a $1.50 a minute. So you don't want, as much as you might be tempted to call, hey, I'm on the mountain in the Arctic, woohoo! I mean, we're guys, right? We're,
they're
gonna have fun
$50.
Too. Exactly. Give me the phone, or
right.
I miss you, I can't wait to get home.
Yeah.
So, there's that. But, the biggest thing, like anyone listening is wanting to do this kind of thing, get past, like, the fear or the anxiety, like, this is too big that I can't do it. Mm-hmm. You can do it. You have to step your way through it.
When you said you had a couple situations where you had some pretty bad cuts. Did it come down to doing some self-stitching? Or
No, they weren't. They weren't. Well, Chad's might have required a stitch, but he had some little portable suture thingies that just kind of like pull your finger together.
Gotcha.
I don't think it was that bad, but it was enough. Like, so okay, great.
Maybe.
Day one, he's got an ouchie, and it's a good one.
Yeah.
And you got your hands. You're in a Caribou, and it's not a sterile environment, anyways.
Right.
I mean, as much as you think like, oh, Arctic, it's going to be pristine.
You're right.
Well, there's all kinds of microorganisms and everything else out there that.
Sure.
It's an alien environment to us. We're not.
You're the invader.
From that environment.
You're the invader.
So,
Right.
speaking of that, one of the big things you got to have water. You got to have potable water. Did you guys you sterilize your own water there? How did you go about it? Did you use fire and boil it? Or did you use a straw, filter straw? How did you go about doing that?
The first camp we took, pretty much most of us had like pumps, or you had Sawyer makes a squeeze filter. We had a gravity bag filter. It worked great until it got plugged up, and you pull it apart and clean the filter. That far north, there's very little to burn.
That was exactly where I was going to go with my next question, because I'm throwing a picture
well,
up here.
looking at those pictures.
Yeah, there's nothing there. There's no trees to speak of near where your camp is. So, what did you guys do?
Well, it's like being dropped off in Mars. You look around and everything looks, flat, kind of hauntingly beautiful in respect to it's just there's nothing and there's different colors. But the more you start looking around, there's folds and there's rolling hills in there, and there's little drainages with a lot of braided streams, and in like those little drainages, you may have some willows that will grow in there.
Okay.
And you might be able to scavenge enough to have like a warming fire or two, but as far as like any significant heat source or to dry anything out, forget it. It's not that far north. It's not happening.
Okay.
So, we had a fire to one night, and it took us all of 5 or 6 days of scrounging up like scrap wood or dead willows and putting them under a tarp so they could get dry, because the environment, it's very wet in the Arctic. It'll rain or precipitate in some form or another every single day without fail. One day in 2018, we had over 24 hours of rain.
Wow.
And it didn't stop. It wasn't like a torrential downpour, but it was a steady clip like all day with some spouts of heavy rain. Rain gear is very important anywhere in Alaska.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about fire. We've talked about water.
Yeah.
And then you were also talking about you took too much food with you, but you got a picture of some grayling here that you guys caught. I imagine you didn't have sushi, so how did you cook these? Did you have a jet boil that you took with you to cook food with, or was this one of those instances over a fire?
My buddy Tony had brought up like a Camp Chef propane stove, and we had stuff where we put them in a pan and cooked them up, and they're fantastic. I mean, the fishing in the first camp was pretty amazing. I struggled with it a little bit, and I got teased, but my brother kicked my ass fishing, and so did Kaz, and so did my stepdaughter. But I mean, it was all good laughs. We had a great time.
That's
but
awesome.
I mean, you're catching Arctic grayling like you'd catch bluegill around here,
That is awesome.
and some really good ones.
This is the same species that is it the Arctic grayling that they're bringing back to Michigan?
They're trying to right now they're running through the tests and everything to get them to reproduce, and then it looks like what I read quickly before the show, they're aiming at 2025 or 2025 would be the first year that they actually reproduce.
Okay.
Where they're putting them is more political than anything. So you know how that goes.
Right. But this used to be a fish that was in Michigan.
And it was drowned out in the 1930s basically because of all the logging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So, we talked about fire. We've talked about fishing. We've talked about everything. I'm assuming you had your phones with you for taking pictures. Maybe you didn't. But if you needed to recharge something, What did you just go to the nearest light pole and plug in, or what did you use?
Well, he had to wrestle a grizzly and plugging it into his backside is kind of tricky.
Right?
Let him run around and generate some electricity. No, you can take like portable external batteries for charging stuff. I took a Gold Zero solar deal, and I thought it was a great idea at the time. And experience is a great teacher, and solar doesn't work that great up there.
Really?
You get a lot of gloomy, cloudy days.
Oh, that's right. It's like Michigan.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, wait 5 minutes and it'll change.
All right.
Solar wasn't a great option, but we had external batteries that took care of our electronics.
Gotcha.
Well, here, quickly before we go to break, I got the picture up of the caribou you shot. Take us through that hunt and how it all shook out.
The 2018
Yes.
caribou?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bud, Adam, myself were north of camp. We were hiding in what was left of a pit house. And we were kind of like an intersection of like these braided streams, and we saw a caribou come down off of to the north and to the west, a small hill up there, and was coming down a drainage and looked like he was going to go to camp. And it had been a little lean. The warm weather had settled in, and it stopped some of the movement. And we just took off running and dropped our packs and took off running. My brother jumped across the stream to cut him off in case it double backed and came across. And I got to a point where I felt like, I had to get set up to get ready to shoot. Laid down in a little depression on a gravel bar and flipped up my bipod and let them have it. It was I think it was a 330-yard shot, and hit him back a little bit. Everyone else started shooting a little bit, and he ended up flopping over. They're not notably tough animals. You hit them in the chest, pretty much anywhere, they're going to go down. If you hit them back a little bit, they're not going far. So that's basically what happened. And I shot him. He was only maybe a quarter mile from camp.
Nice. What were you using for a bullet? What caliber?
I was in 18. I had taken my 7mm Magnum.
Okay.
And I was just running 150 grain pointed soft points, Federal blue box.
Okay.
And I was comfortable shooting with those to maybe 200 yards or so.
Okay.
That's one thing about Alaska, especially up there. You've really got to shoot, and you've got to be comfortable shooting to 300 yards or more. The distances up there they're big. They're very tricky. You need a rangefinder, and you need to be practiced with some longer range shooting than what we're used to here at home.
Right. All right. I tell you what. Let's take our next break. We come back. If there's anything else you want to talk about 2018, then we'll jump into the next hunt, which was 2020. Correct?
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Yep. Kodiak Island.
All right. We're going to step outside, take our next break. We'll be right back after this.
All right, folks. Keep those questions coming in. One of the questions. Where'd it go? Now that, excuse me. Now that you're a veteran traveler to Alaska, would you consider offering your service and guiding other hunters to their first trip? Wow, sounds like a business in the making when you retire.
I know. I think I know who's asking that question.
I do too.
He's contemplating.
I'm not sure how to answer that one.
But you know what? It's one of those things. I'm sure you wouldn't mind helping somebody out. Maybe not necessarily going, but giving them some tips and tricks to help them get going. Give them some pointers. Of course, maybe if they pay your way, you'd go. But
There you go.
right? But hey, you never know. We were just talking about this about work, and maybe this is your next business.
Yeah. What do you do next, and where does it all lead? And
Right? Maybe he walks in.
retirement's on the horizon.
Maybe he walks in Sunday and says, "Hey, I'm retiring." Monday, he's an outfitter.
There you go. Moving to Alaska.
I would have to really think long and hard about something like that. I mean, obviously, I like helping people,
Sure.
and there's
Right.
some stringent requirements and regulations and laws regarding guiding in Alaska. They're very serious about it.
Well,
I'm not saying no, but I'm not saying yes.
Well, no. If they got any questions, they can get a hold of us, and we can always pass on the information to you. And I'm assuming your coworker is Bud.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're the one. You're working with him this Sunday, huh?
Yeah.
So, all right.
Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, and 1. All right. Episode. Jeez. Segment 3.
Segment 3, again, folks, if you're watching us or listening to us on the podcast or listening to us on the audio version and you're not watching the video, there's a reason why you need to go back and watch the video, either back on Facebook or catch us on YouTube, because there's things in the break that we talked about you won't hear.
Yeah, like we've already got Dean retired and got him another job. So moving on state.
We even have the name of his guide service already.
I see a couple names being suggested here. Right. Guide Services or Recon's Guide Services.
So you got all the help to have your own business. And it sounds like Chad is the guy that likes to cut his finger. So, now 2020, you're going to Kodiak Island now. What are you going after there?
Yes. Blacktail.
Blacktail.
What was the genesis of going to Kodiak versus going back to Brooks Range?
Something different. I thought that it might be fun to see the legendary island of Kodiak.
Okay.
Bounce it off some of my buddies, and some of the guys wanted to go, some didn't want to go, and we came up with another group of 8. And Kodiak is a little intimidating. The land is just legendary, and so are the bears that live there. And they're huge. So anyway, so we thought, hey, what can we do in Kodiak? Well, initially we thought we were going to go to Prince of Wales, and we wanted to hunt blacktail there. And my buddy Brad and Carl started looking at Kodiak, and they started pulling us that way, and we just said, well, yeah, it looks like it's a better deal. I got more animals. It might be a little bit more adrenaline filled with Kodiak bears running around.
So doing your
recon might be cool.
Doing your recon, you figured out going to Kodiak was the better option.
Yeah. And it's an amazing place. It's absolutely amazing. It's a different environment. It's southern Alaska. It's out in the ocean next to the peninsula down there. It's an amazing place. We flew out of Kodiak City, and you could see mountain goats up in the mountains as you flew out of the city. It was crazy.
You guys didn't open fire from the plane? No.
No. Mountain goat's a species that you gotta employ a guide in Alaska.
Okay, so like you were saying before, so did you need a guide? So did you need a guide to go to the island?
No, not for black-tailed deer.
Okay.
And that's another species that on Kodiak for non-resident, at least right now, you can get over-the-counter tags for black-tailed deer, either sex, and you're allowed up to 3 of them.
What did you encounter going to Kodiak, or once you got there, that was different than Brooks that you hadn't planned
on? To be honest, like we rounded into Zacher Bay and we came around and we saw, because we had rented a cabin, we were a little intimidated about camping on Kodiak for the first time. So we opted to go to the west side of Kodiak and get into a place where they rented cabins. And, 4 solid walls when we sleep. They average like a bear every 0.3 miles on Kodiak. So we decided to go that route. And the first thing, to be honest with you, when we rounded into the bay and I started looking at the topography and how brushy and how steep it was, I thought, holy crap, what did I get us into? Mm-hmm. And it was a tough hunt. It was more physically demanding than the Arctic, as far as like kicking your butt, wiping you out, physical exertion in that bay was completely different than what we encountered up on the Brooks in 18.
So with that being said, did you feel better coming back to a cabin for the night to sleep than having to worry about camping?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so
absolutely.
That was a mental plus, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, not knowing what we're going to be running into, and again, it's another foreign environment, and you know, Kodiak brown bear is just they can be walking nightmares. I mean, they're massive, beautiful, big animals, but you know, it's pretty intimidating. And like everywhere you go to hunt in Kodiak, you're crawling through good bear country to get into the alpine to hunt down on the blacktails. So like, you know, you can't see them. They're brown. Everything is brown, and you can smell them. And you're creeping through their bedrooms, and you're like, well, you've got the anxiety of, well, be loud and let them know you're there, or be quiet and slip through and hopefully that they're not there. So, you know, conventional wisdom says be loud, but at the same time, they're not really an animal that is quite as skittish like some of the bears we saw in the Arctic. They're just behaviorally, they're a little different.
So, can you imagine sneaking through his bedroom?
No,
me neither. But you know, I talk about adrenaline rush. You probably all had adrenaline dumps at the end of the night, just trying to relax. It was like, whew, you know. And I tell you, it is, you know, like you said, the different topography between one versus the other.
Well, we're looking right here. We're looking at a picture of one of the blacktails taken on this hunt, and to me, that picture. That could be anywhere in Michigan. There's leaves on the ground, trees and moss growing on the trees. It looks like, but you're saying this is up in the mountains, correct?
Yeah, like so, like if you took like a tag alder swamp and like stuck it on the side of a mountain, and it's at a 60-degree angle. Mm-hmm. That's the stuff that you're crawling through. You're crawling through tag alders, willows, and this stuff called devil's club. It's like a wild rose, except it grows just as nasty and tangly, but like all the spines are like little hypodermic needles, and there's like lots of them. We wore safety glasses going through the scrub, so you know, last thing in the world we want to do is have a branch come back, you know, you're going through, pushing through, snap you and get one of those in your eye.
Wow.
So it was a tough hunt. By the end of the week, though, I feel most of us had our legs and we're feeling better than we did the first couple days. Third day, we decided to crawl up into a high mountain saddle looking for some nice bucks. That particular side of the island had suffered a pretty good winter kill, so we decided to go for it the one day. And we spent, I think it took us 6 hours to get in the saddle climbing, and we ended up climbing vertically higher than One World Trade Center in New York City.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good hunt.
It was a butt kicker.
Well,
it was a butt kicker.
You said your legs were hurting, and Chad says, besides poking his finger again on the island, his legs still hurt 2 years later.
Yeah.
So, you know, you definitely put in your time, the work, the effort. We were showing a picture of the buck that was taken. Looks like a 6-point. And
yeah, our buddy Tom got that one. He got a beautiful buck.
Talking about, you know, the altitude, kicking your butt and climbing on such a steep angle, did you do any physical training before you went into the bush, you know, ahead of that hunt to get ready for that, or did you not really expect it to be that extreme?
No, having gone, getting my feet wet in the Arctic and, you know, walking through tussocks, which is kind of miserable, and knowing that it was going to be more of a mountain hunt,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most of us did some conditioning and did some training ahead of time. I think probably hindsight being 2020, maybe we should have done a little bit more, but we made it through and we were all right. We took a bunch of deer, a lot of does. they lost a lot of their bucks in the winter. They rut a little later than our deer, and the mature bucks, a lot of times they don't have the time to come back and put on fat reserves before the winter gets going, and they tend to lose some of their more mature animals in different parts of the island on a bad winter. If they get snow late, and if it persists through February, then the blacktail on Kodiak on the west side and north side of the island tend to be in a little bit of a trouble spot.
Okay.
All right.
Well, talking about going in and taking more deer, you also spent some time taking fish. So I'm showing the picture of all the meat here on the table that you all packaged up to take back home. It looks like fish, but you told me there's also a lot of deer meat in there as well.
Yeah, we had gone out on 2 half-day charters. 4 of us went one day, and then 4 of us went the following day. And halibut, you're allowed 2 per person, and which was great. And everyone, I'm assuming most people know how fabulous halibut is to eat. And they're a lot of fun to catch. We're fishing about 300 feet of water, and we were getting the blackcod, and there's no limit on Pacific blackcod in Alaska. So we hammered the hell out of them, and we just had a riot. And so I like cod. Everyone likes cod. So we loaded them up, and they took care of them for us and vacuum packed them, and we butchered our own deer. And some of the guys shot some fox, some really beautiful Kodiak fox, and took it all home with us. Flew it home. Instead of paying the crazy shipping it takes, you get everything frozen, and you can put stuff in wax fish boxes that they ship seafood in, and as long as it's frozen, you can stick it in the belly of the plane as checked bag and fly home with it.
There you go. And even, unfortunately, it even looks like they even hit a drug bust if somebody catches that picture the wrong way. Like,
right. Yeah.
All those white packages. It's like, uh-oh, what are they doing it up in our journal?
Yeah.
D. Smith.
Yeah.
But that's awesome that you were actually, besides deer hunting, you did some fishing. You went after some different game animals.
Did you buy tags on site, or is that something that was included with your tags that you bought going in? How did that work?
So, like for Alaska, you can buy all your licenses online, as long as they're over the counter. And if you're non-resident, certain species are required for locking tags. They're like metal clips that go around like an antler and a jaw. Like caribou is one. Black-tailed deer, they wanted. I don't think they needed. It was just a harvest ticket. They didn't require a locking tag for that. Wolves, you required a locking tag. But anything that you buy online, you can have shipped. Like your locking tags, they'll mail them to you, so you can have them ahead of your trip. Or when we got the Kodiak, some of the guys bought some tags and their locking tags right there in Kodiak at Big Race.
Okay, gotcha.
Nice. And so far, you've done 2 trips in 2 years. You've had opposite end of the spectrum going there, and it's amazing. And then all of a sudden now you said, hey, let's go again.
Yeah, 2022.
Right.
Well, I tell you, let's take our last break. We'll come back. We'll see what time we got left and talk about going back for the 3rd time. We're going to step outside, take our next break. We'll be right back after this.
Mark Coleman says toiletries are a plus in his opinion.
Toiletries are always a plus. Speaking, all right, let's ask the obvious question. When first time you went, are you digging a hole?
You're digging a hole and leaving a present.
Okay.
And then burying it.
Okay, so we had to ask this question to a guest that went to Isle Royal. How much toilet paper do you take with you?
I learned from some military buddies about keeping a happy butt as a dry butt. So I'll take wet wipes, and roll of toilet paper, and dry, wet, dry, and keeps you from having any issues while you're in backcountry.
A monkey butt.
Right.
Right.
So, right?
Yeah.
And Denny Steiner says, what an awesome adventure. Tony Smith, he wants to know Is 700 yards a reasonable distance? Question mark. Right?
There's a story behind that.
I was going to say there has to be a story.
That's why I mentioned his name, who asked the question. So that's why there's a bunch of laugh faces by the comments. So I figured there's something behind there.
Yeah, there might be a custom-made jersey for Tony that says Smith and 700 on it for him for Christmas one of these years.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, and 1. Oh yeah, you just gotta watch the live stream, people.
You
listen
do?
on the podcast.
Live stream or catch us on YouTube to see what we talk about
Yep.
in the breaks. But you know what? We're coming into the last segment.
We just got done talking about backside care.
Right? And you decided to go again this year. Where did you go this year?
We went back to the Brooks. We went to the North Slope. Pretty much geographically, that whole area is considered North Slope. So we went back we went with 6 this time. Pretty much everyone that went to Kodiak, minus 2 of our buddies, and my stepdaughter jumped on. She had gone the first trip to the Brooks, and she wanted to go back and try her hand at getting a bigger caribou. So we went 6 this time. We went back with Brooks Range Aviation. The thing about Alaska, too, like anyone that's thinking about Alaska right now, is you really have to pay attention to the politics, the fish and game politics, with some of the subsistence boards. There's some rabble-rousing going back and forth with closures and locking out non-locals to certain hunting areas, and we weren't sure if our trip was going to get canceled or not because the area, the game unit that we were going to was under scrutiny for closure because the herd in that area had dropped to a trigger point, which was like, I think, set at like 200,000 animals. So they shut down Unit 23 to the south, and they shut down part of our Unit 26A, but the lake that we had reserved was actually a lake that we wanted to go to in 18, but the wind was so bad up there, the pilots couldn't get us in.
Okay.
So we ended up going there. But yeah, you think our politics with deer management stuff are crazy. Alaska is right now, it's almost like a real life episode of Yellowstone, and some of it with taking rights and stuff. Could you imagine like telling guys living downstate and telling guys from northern Michigan or the UP that they can't come downstate and hunt because they're not local?
Right. You're in the same state. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You mentioned something that just really piqued my curiosity. So I got a picture of the plane you're flying in. So you've flown in now twice. Well, you fly into Kodiak too. Now, Kodiak, to me, it makes sense. It's a seaplane, you fly in, float plane, you fly in, you come up to a dock, you unload. Now, up in the Brooks Range, you said that you reserved a lake, but you couldn't get into that lake for what you said, weather, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So that, to me, would be a seaplane, but there's not a lot of water up there to fly in and float in on. Do they have ground landings as well? And those have to be predetermined airstrips, right? Or camp
Yes. Brooks Range, they've got some planes on wheels, but most of their planes are on floats. And a lot of the areas that they get into, they do better by getting in on floats.
Okay.
It's actually easier for taxi services getting into backcountry spots to find bodies of water that are, landable, as opposed to finding, somewhere where they can put a beaver down on wheels on a gravel strip somewhere. Super Cubs, you can, but then that's a whole different animal where you get 40 pounds. That's all you're allowed. So your tent, your gear, your food, everything. That's almost like a sheep hunt. That's tight. That's real tight.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. As I'm looking at the pictures, camp for you this year, it looked to me like you're on dry ground. and then the plane going in, it shows a couple small bodies of water, and I'm just trying to picture in my mind where that plane actually did it. Was it water or was it land?
Yeah, like if you're looking at the picture and you're looking at the tents and it's like looking out, back, what you don't see is behind, like that's from, I think Chad or Mike took that picture. Behind camp to the left is a lake.
Okay.
And it's pinched between the hill that we camp behind and a mountain to directly to our east.
Okay, makes sense. It's just one of them things that you think about it and you don't know till you ask.
Yep.
So,
question coming in about that. Mark Coleman says, you never ask a woman her age, just like you never ask a hunter what they paid for hunting gear or a hunting trip. But in a ballpark sense, to experience a DIY to Alaska, Chad says about $6,000. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Okay, so you're looking at roughly about 6,000, and if you have some of the gear or you don't, it'll vary.
one way or the other, depending on the flight prices and
right,
what it costs to get in and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
And
And that's 6 is an accurate figure for caribou. We didn't spend nearly that much for the blacktail hunt.
Okay.
And part of the motivation, I mean, other than the satisfaction and that hey, I did it myself. If you were to hire a guide service for the same, you'd be looking at doubling those figures.
Okay. Now, what time of the year did you go for caribou?
This last trip, we left August 11th. We were in the field from the 14th. We're scheduled to be in the field from the 14th until the 21st. 2018, we wanted to do 10 days. We felt that was a little long. So this time we scheduled for 7, and we actually lost 2 days due to weather. We got grounded. The planes couldn't fly. We lost 2 days in the front, and we got stuck in the hangar and Bettles for 2 days.
Okay, and then for the blacktail, when did you go?
We went for a week.
And what time of year? Same time?
No, that was end of October.
Okay, so
we wanted to.
All right, so we'll take the August trips. Well, actually, we'll hit them both. But the question is, how cold was it getting in at night? That the colds from August to the October hunt.
In the Arctic, that time of year, it's like their autumn. The weather's very unstable. 2018, we experienced a temperature drop from 70 degrees one night to about 25, 22 degrees in like 4 or 5 hours time. This August, we went a week earlier than we went 18, and I think the coldest it got one night was right around 22, 24 degrees, and we had sustained wind at like 25 with gusts to 30, 35. Highs, I think we might have seen like upper 40s, low 50, 51 one day. The little seams come out and tore us up pretty good when we're cleaning caribou.
Okay, showing pictures here of the caribou taken on the last hunt. Your stepdaughter seen with one here. Is that an improvement from the first time?
Oh yeah, yep. She shot a hell of a bull, and she made a hell of a shot. She shot that bull at 450 yards to 270.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a great shot. Yeah, she's very happy with that bull.
Absolutely. And now we ran through a couple of these pits. Were these one every day, or did you get 2 in a day, or?
Well, you can't hunt the same day that you fly in Alaska, so like us losing 2 days really hurt. So basically, all our hunting got compressed into 4 days, including the day we get picked up was like 4th day. Chad got one the one night. Kelly and Mike shot their bulls together one night, and it was really cool. It was great evening. It was just crazy. It just happened all at once. The bachelor heard bulls come across the river, and we just got on them. two groups of us were half mile apart, coming down on this group of bulls, and Kelly and Mike were successful, and I don't know, you got done, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning by the time we got back to camp, because you're packing them out, you're breaking them down, packing them out, and then the bull I got was actually a shared bull between me and my buddy Tom. We call him Mad Dog, and we tried to get around and bump this bull back towards my brother, and it didn't work out. And the bull ended up coming off the mountain, and I hit him at 385 yards, and Mad Dog was behind me about 60 yards, making sure if it like split the difference on us that he could get a shot. It was the last night, and he made a terrific shot that put him down after I hit him. And I don't know, the hell he shoot at, like 480 yards, something crazy.
Wow.
And
poke.
yeah, it was a tag team. It was really cool. And the only way the trip could have got any better was if my brother had got one too. But you know, it's just how it goes sometimes. You know, he worked his butt off. But yeah, I mean, it was a fun trip, and we logged some miles. I think Mike's smartwatch thought that we walked maybe cumulatively in like 4.5, 5 days, close to 40 miles, wandering around that river valley. Pretty cool. Nice.
Well, looking at this trip versus the first time you went, besides taking too much gear, what was different going back this time? What did you do differently going into this trip that you learned from the first time that you went up there?
I did a lot more long range shooting. My friend Wayne and some of his buddies put on a clinic for a few of us prior to our Kodiak trip, and taught us how to ring steel at 1,000 yards with our hunting rifles.
Okay.
You know, physically, I was a little bit more fit this time. It was more enjoyable to me. I cut 20 pounds ahead of this trip.
Okay.
I felt a lot stronger. My food was better. I didn't take nearly as much freeze-dried food. Dehydrated a lot of my own meals. Kept the sodium down. I seem to do a little bit better. The only thing I wish I could have done different on this trip is that I wish I would have scheduled this 10 days instead of 7, because losing the 2 really hurt us. Had we had an additional 2 days, it would have been 100% success.
Right, exactly. And that's one thing when you're setting up your schedule, right? You don't know until it happens, right? So it's kind of a bummer when you get there.
Tom just says here, you know, buying gear is not cheap for these trips, but now that he's got for the next adventure, and that's something when you make an investment like this, not just in the trip itself, but you've got gear that you can use for other things later on.
Yeah, exactly. High quality gear, albeit it's expensive. You take care of it, it will last, provided you don't outgrow it. It will last a long time, and the good gear, like any of the top name brands or backcountry hunting, are worth it. They keep the moisture off you. They stop the wind. They insulate you when you need to be insulated, and good quality rain gear is imperative for hunting Alaska. You're gonna get wet, and if you get wet and you can't get dry, you're gonna be miserable, or worse, you're gonna get hypothermic.
Right, exactly. And Tony Smith says here, blacktails are an exception to the wait period. You can actually hunt those the same day you fly in. Average hours of daylight you were seeing each day. Chad says basically it got dark at 1:30 a.m. and then it got light again at 3-4 a.m.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Some long days.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Those are definitely some.
Did that mess with your sleeping at all? I mean, did it really upset your circadian rhythm?
Not so much, and we're pretty whipped, and a little Crown Royal kind of helps with that at the end of the day too.
Right, and that was one of the questions was, how long did it take your body to adjust, leaving Michigan, getting up there, flying in, getting set, Was there a big body adjustment needed, or it worked itself out?
On the front side, it goes pretty quick, but coming back, it'll take you a week or more, week and a half to get right back in the swing of things when you come home. Most of your flights out of Fairbanks or Anchorage, you're going to catch a red eye just because you're jumping over 4 time zones. So it's only like 4 hours difference or this much. But when you come back, everything is doubled because you're chasing it, right?
Right.
So, we left Fairbanks. We flew out at like 3:15 in the afternoon Fairbanks time, and we didn't get picked up from Metro Detroit Airport until 6:30 in the morning the next day.
Okay. Yep. Are there legal hunting hours?
Yes. So, for example, you cannot hunt the same day that you fly certain species, as Tony pointed out. The legal hunting hours on our trip started at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. was like legal hunting hour when we could actually go out and shoot a caribou the next day after we got dropped off camp.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. We do got a question here. I see you posted a picture that had wording on it.
Yep. I was saving that here towards the end because he said that this is pretty cool. So
all right.
Got this picture up. Says, "Do not disturb archaeological site." So did you guys run across an old ancient burial ground, a mine? What is this for?
Okay, so the particular area where we went into this time was the Naigu River Valley system, and there's pit houses all along the Naigu camp spots that are 12, 10, 15,000 years old.
Oh.
Some of the first people that came across the land bridge after the last ice age out of Russia, out of Asia, came across and they followed the caribou herds and some of the megafauna in the area. And they would actually come down through those same mountain passes, and right where we camped, there was like pit houses that were 10, 15,000 years old. Wow. So it was kind of like really cool. I get chills thinking about it. We were walking in the footsteps of other hunters from potentially 15,000 years ago. And it was a great spot, and you could see where they had erected a fence. They had what was left of it, like rocks, where they would hide behind these fences, and they would scare the caribou along these fences, and they'd drive them down into the lake. And they'd have other hunters in like skin canoes, and they'd spear them while they're swimming.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was really, really cool. And you could see like spots where like you could tell like there was like maybe 20 pit houses dug, like there was a community in there. And to think that you're walking on the same ground that, maybe somewhere ancestrally, down the line that,
yeah, it's cool.
Other hunters. It's really cool.
There's times when I'm in a patch of woods somewhere, whether it be here in Michigan or some other place, and you wonder, it's like, it looks so secluded and so far off the map that you go, I wonder, is any other hunter or human ever stepped in these places before, or like even when I'm kayaking and I'm going around a bend and you're thinking, man, this looks like this would be a great place to hunt. I wonder if Native American, set up on these banks here and their canoes, and did they hunt here or fish here? I get what you're saying. It's pretty cool when you start thinking in those terms.
It's like the hunt within the hunt. You're walking around and all over on the gravel bars up there, you're looking around for maybe a Clovis spear point, or maybe flakes where first people were flaking out.
Yep.
Spear points out of some of the flint and some of the other material that's around that area.
Yeah.
It's a really amazing place, and it's not changed that much in probably 15,000 years or more.
Wow.
Right. And the animals, they're using the same trails, same thing,
and that's one of those things like when I'm in the UP, right? Or even in or anywhere, you just try to picture it without the roads, right?
Yeah.
Just picture it with woods only.
Yeah.
And really, where he's at, there are no roads, obviously, right. And it's very pristine to what was thousands of years ago, like he said, and it's pretty awesome. That's pretty cool.
You know, I've read this several times, the accounts, and I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, Dean, but there's a land bridge that's underwater now in Lake Huron from Michigan to Canada, and they dove on this ridge and found that native people back thousands of years ago, when the Ice Age was here and the glaciers were carving this area out, that there was caribou or elk trail, I can't remember which.
Yeah, and woodland caribou.
Yeah, and they
built the same kind of, and they did the same thing. They had fences and they had spots where they push them through there.
And it's all underwater now, under Lake Huron, which is, to me, is just, it's remarkable.
Yeah, it's amazing place. Like we were, like Gates of the Arctic National Park and Preserve is south of where we were by like maybe 10, 15 miles, and it's the second largest national park in the country, and they only get 900 visitors a year. Wow. There's no roads, there's no trails. The only way you get in there is if you float in, you hoof in, or you get dropped off by a plane.
Wow. And spend some time.
Yeah, it's an awesome place.
Wow, that's pretty cool. What a DIY adventure.
Absolutely.
Times 3.
You know, if you just, kind of flipping back through the mountain scenes here of these 3 trips is, it's incredible. It really is. It's something that we all dream of in some way, shape, or form. Going somewhere different, out of the way, that's just not your everyday hunt, that you just like going out of state or anything like that. These are trips of a lifetime. So.
And and anyone can do it. You just get the mindset. Don't be afraid. Just walk through it. I mean,
exactly. I bet you the first time was just getting over that initial fear of doing it. After you did it the first time, the second time was totally 180. And now the third time, your confidence level is through the roof.
All of us dream, but not all of us live. And us middle-aged guys are not getting any younger.
No.
And I would encourage anyone that's remotely interested doing this kind of stuff, just do it, because it'll change you. It'll change how you look at things. The pictures are wonderful, but as wonderful as the photos are and some of the stories, it doesn't do it. It really doesn't do it justice. It's amazing. It's amazing.
All right. With that being said, the question has been put out there. 3 times you've gone. Obviously, in 2024, you're probably going to take another trip. We're guessing the year. Where's it going to be?
That's up in discussion right now. We're looking at stuff next year. Groups of us are looking at mule deer, maybe at Colorado. There's been more discussion in 24, maybe going to the south end of Kodiak and actually camp this time. There's a static reindeer herd on the south end of Kodiak, as well as blacktail hunting. Some of us are kind of wanting to go back to Zacher Bay, maybe, now that we know what to expect. And the half-day fishes were they're really cool. You come home with Pacific black cod and halibut. I mean, that's tough to beat, man. And it cost, what the hell it cost us? 4 of us, $160 a piece for a half-day fish.
That's not bad at all.
And you look at the pictures you got.
You can't beat that.
Yeah. No, you can't.
Beat that.
Not at all.
All right, last question before we wrap up the show. So,
yes, sir.
You talked about when that plane took off, that first trip out, and how lonely it felt. How happy were you when you heard it coming back in? Or were you sad that you had to leave, knowing you were leaving?
I was happy to get home and see friends and family, and see Olivia and see the kids. But man, I don't know. I kind of like it up there. It's. I mean, you know, you can't have everything, right? It's kind of bittersweet. You know, it's you know, like when you get to shoot an animal, it's kind of anticlimactic,
Right.
to the adventure, and then, you know, like this last time, we just weren't ready to go. I think all of us, it was just losing those 2 days in this last hunt, and when the planes come in, it was like, shit.
Yeah.
You know,
We don't want to leave now.
Right, you know.
Yeah, another 3 days. Yeah. You know,
we're just getting into our groove. We lost 2 days, and here it comes. And, all right, let's get out of here. And you know,
but I'll give anyone who's watching this fair warning. You do this once, you're gonna absolutely hate it, and you'll never want to do it again, or it's all you'll think about, and you'll be sick with it.
There you go. Well, Tom Blackford says Alaska will change you. Oh, and another question: who's the biggest clown or jokester in your camp?
I don't know. I think that hat gets passed around quite a bit, but we got one of our buddies, our buddy Tom Nowicki. He's a bit of a clown. He's got a very unique nickname that won't be mentioned.
There you go. There you go, folks. Like we talked about, thank you, Dean, for coming on the show, talking about a DIY Alaska ×3. Folks, if you got any questions, just send us a IM or something. We'll get you in touch with Dean. If not, we'll ask him. We'll reply the answer back. But I tell you what, you just got to go out and do it, like you said.
Yeah, it's don't wait on things you want to do in life, because, man, you never know when your last day on this earth is, and you got to take advantage of every day you're given. So,
because you only live once.
That's right. Get out and get after it.
That's right.
Well, Dean, hang on with us for just a moment. We're going to wrap up the show here, and we'll chat afterwards. But for those of you who are listening on the podcast, if you're listening over on iTunes, give us a review. That helps us and helps the people who support us as well. And for those of you who are watching here on Facebook, or if you're watching on YouTube here later in the week, you know, subscribe to the show there. Give us a like, follow, share the show if you would, and that in turn helps the people who support us. Next week we have
Scott Tabor on.
We got a surprise. That's all we want to say.
It's a total surprise.
We're going in a direction that
we haven't gone before, so we're gonna take a step foot in that direction.
That's
we'll tell you all about it next week. And
you got a picture of something you want to post this week that might give
I'll post
indication?
It. Yep, I'll post it as a little tease. But tune in next week. Something we've talked about it, I think, on the show.
We talked about it.
But stay tuned next week, and
that's all we're going to say.
Good luck if you are going out this weekend, October 1st.
Be safe. Wear your tree harness or your safety harness while you're in the tree stand. Don't be one of those people we read about later on. So that'll do it for us this week. Make sure you tune in again next week, same time, 7:30 here on Wednesday night on Facebook. Y'all take care.